Hi everyone, welcome back to Frisky, a podcast about everything marketing and sexuality with Daniela and Athanasia.
Welcome! Today with us we have a really special guest, Stefania Masè, Associate Professor of Marketing at IPAG Business School. Welcome, Stefania.
Hello, and many thanks for this invitation.
So Stefania is going to give us dating advice during this episode.
Of course she will.
And tell us how to increase our chances to find the love of our lives through online dating.
Or maybe barely surviving, as we could see from her paper. So we're starting from a paper we really enjoyed, Commodifying Love Value Conflict in Online Dating, published in Journal of Marketing Management. To those listening, you'll find the paper linked in the description. Stefania, can you tell us a bit how you started this project of looking into the market of dating?
Okay, many thanks for this question. I think this is really the right question to give it a go to our conversation. Actually, I was just having a chat with a friend at that time, and he was in a very peculiar, let's say, period of his life because he's getting divorced. And actually, he was at the very end, let's say, of this, divorce process. And we're starting to have this chat, and he said suddenly, I have to open an account in Tinder, or by the way, any of these, digital dating platforms. And I was so surprised. It was, I would say, 2019 or 2020, I would say, more or less. So I was quite surprised about the usage of the verb in itself, because it was not, I would like to explore, by the way, I will give it a try by using this digital environment to find a new partner or whatever, but he really used the verb, I have to, so something that was really a sort of obligation. So together with my colleagues, especially with Elisa Minina, who is the first author of this paper that we wrote in three, actually. It is not just me, but it is me, Elisa Minina, and Jamie Smith. But especially with Elisa, at the very beginning, we started to have a chat about this topic. And it happens that she has some friends too in the same situation, etc. And so after that, we started to have an exploration of this context, I would say. And so yes, I don't think that I can give you a lot of suggestions about how to succeed, because actually the real let's say, results also of this investigation was really about how to survive. Actually, let's say that with my colleagues, I am the most, I have to say, the most negative ones as an approach, because since the beginning I was expecting, but maybe because I was really, directed by my friend and what he said as this have to position that he has, that I had a sort of, negative attitude or approach in this exploration, and apparently I was partially, confirmed. I received some confirmation. So yes, this is how everything started.
In your paper, you talk about the commodification of love. So it might be quite interesting if you could define for us what do you mean with the expression commodification of love, and also from your findings, how does online dating platforms contribute to the commodification?
Okay, many thanks for this question again. I think that it was the concept of commodification comes, or by the way, it is strictly related to the theoretical framework that we used in our paper, which is the emotional capitalism framework suggested by Illouz. This sociologist, actually, she talks about digital dating as well, but actually she talks about the changes, the evolution through time also. So how, the dating changed through time. And she pointed especially on the transformation, especially during the 19th century, 19th and 20th century, of the transformation of dating into a leisure activity. So transforming dating into something that was, very, very well packed, let's say, or very well precise and managed by families, by, society at large, let's say, and transforming this this process, this act into something that, by the way, was led by leisure, allowed the market logics to enter into the search for new partners, or, by the way, to a beloved ones. And so this is the approach. And of course, also this theoretical framework helped us to have a better understanding of how these digital dating services, being services in themselves, really, what can I say, pushed even more this market logic into, social relationships, and in this sense, quite peculiar kind of social relationships. So love relationships, or, by the way, yes, affective relationships. So yes, in this sense, we started our investigation with this in mind, and at the very end, especially with the exploitation feelings that comes out from the interviews, etc., we thought that, by the way, these market logics was really pushing something, so the dating activity, into something that was a sort of commodification. So it's the activity in itself, but also the people. We were also mentioning the people as product, theoretical background in our investigation.
I actually wanted to follow up on this, because the contributions are a bit bleak, if you wish, in terms of, this is market ecosystems that really devalues users. And something that you point out is commodification, but also objectification of users themselves. So how do Tinder, Bumble users are objectified, you think? And is there a way out, really?
Our consumers described some strategies to get out from this feeling of objectification. I have to say, by the way, as I said at the beginning, I was the very negative one, but I have to say that actually most of our interviewees also described some, fun things, or, by the way, using the apps in a very fun or in a very positive way. So it is not only negative. But, by the way, this negative part, it is something that comes out and that cannot be denied. It must be described. It is very important. So yes, the platform plays a big role, of course, in the commodification, or, by the way, in the also in the, what can I say, in the hyper acceleration, in the multiple possibilities of choices. So we also talk about the freedom of choice, this multiplicities, exactly, as I was saying, of choices that the consumers apparently have, or, by the way, they feel to have this kind of multiple choices. So how to escape from these? They have, as I say, some strategies because they are very aware, by the way, of the strength and the forces of these platforms. They know more or less, and also because, of course, we are going on and on. We didn't stop on this article only. We also have other investigations about how the users are getting aware about the algorithms and how do they work. So in a sense, they are aware about that. They are aware that in a sense, they are the objects under the exchange, the objects and the subjects of the transaction at the same time. But some of them are really trying to get the positive part from this transaction, but also to, in a very sneaky way, they are trying to, how can I say, they are trying to bypass the algorithms and what the digital dating platforms or the managers, or, by the way, the technicians behind the digital dating platforms are trying to push them to do. It is very interesting, actually, because it was very interesting to listen to the feelings that these people had, both for men and for women. And also, yes, the strategies that they described, and also the fact that, by the way, we perceived a different, we acknowledge a different kind of feelings and even behavior from our men consumers and women consumers. This is something interesting. We didn't get deeper into the analysis of the, let's say, gender bias, or, by the way, gender-oriented analysis, but there are a lot of things to say also in this perspective.
I recently went to a Bumble wedding where the couple shared their love story and how they met through the app. And after their speech, I was talking to a friend who was also attending the wedding, and she said, "Oh, now that I see them sharing openly that they met on Bumble, well, now I'm gonna start saying to people that I actually met my partner on Bumble as well." And I thought that, okay, so we know that these apps are used by so many people, they're widely used and referenced. However, there's still some stigma when love stories actually work out from these apps, and people are kind of skeptical to share their own success stories. So, did you find anything with your participants in terms of the stigma of using the apps for online dating, and whether you had any success stories that were still a little bit stigmatized?
Definitely, this is something that comes out continuously, and this is also some of the strategies actually. So people are using these platforms, but they were, at least at that time, because we don't need to forget that we're talking about 5 years ago. So of course something has changed now. So maybe this is also, a phenomenon which is largely perhaps approved. I mean, socially approved. So yes, by the way, our interviewees says and talks about stigma, even without mentioning the word stigma directly, but this is what we perceived quite frequently. So they were very attentive, for example, to keep their online life very separated from the real life, to introduce the people, so potential partners or partners that they met online, to their real life friends. So of course this is something that comes out quite continuously, but on the positive side, of course, we know that there are a lot of happy ending stories about people who get married, or by the way, who find friends, or it is nothing it is 100% negative, as I was saying since the beginning. But by the way, this kind of strange perception from the users, it is something that comes out. Yes, it was described multiple times on the paper.
I would like to go back, out of my own interest, to your point around gender differences. I mean, you said like the gender analysis is not in the paper, but can you give us some tidbits of, maybe what hasn't ended up being in the published version that you thought was relevant when looking at your data?
Yes, definitely. This is something that it is on the paper. We just decided, especially for, length, the length of the paper, we decided not to get into the analysis of gender issues, because definitely we need another paper, or by the way, even a book to describe these differences. So the major ones that I can describe, it is the fact that men were aware about having, what can I say, like the smallest slice of the cake from the usage of the digital apps, in the sense that they're very aware about the fact that women had multiple choices compared to them, and that they have to really fight a lot to, stimulate, let's say, the interest from their potential partners. So talking about our heterosexual interviewees, especially in this case, but not only, but okay, by keeping this heterosexual perspective. This is something that they describe quite frequently. Or, for example, they, again, the men users told us that they were quite upset about the presence of multiple fake profiles that hide prostitution activities. So this is something that comes out quite frequently, and they were quite worried or also upset, because if you're looking for a friendship, or by the way, the partner of your life, this is something that can be very disturbing, I would say. So this is the major problematic that comes out from the men interviewees, our men interviewees, while for the women, the fact was again the fake profiles, what it was frequently described. And actually, we had one of the interviewees who very, courageously described as a tentative of rape, actually, that a tentative of assault, let's say, that happened to her. So this was very, very not disturbing, but we were very worried about, the fact of describing this fact or not on the paper. This person was. Of course, she gave us the agreement to do it, but by the way, it was difficult also to make this description. We wanted to be very, very sure that we can describe it. And finally, we decided to do it because, by the way, it is something that we need to talk about. And especially what was very disturbing for us, it was the fact that this woman told us that she signaled the presence of what happened, to her. But actually the platform at that time did nothing for her protection. So this is a real problem, a real issue, that must be fixed. And eventually, and I hope, and I'm sure that some colleagues also from the consumer, behavior side or from the service industry, the service research side are doing research in this sense. But this was, quite worrying.
Can I jump on this one, real quickly? Because I was also very touched in reading the description of, this assault that she had to go through. And again, thinking about that these platforms are just there. Almost we consider them neutral, like the very infrastructure of this market, but at the same, and this ecosystem, but at the same time, there are service decisions that are embedded in these platforms. So the way they're wired and the affordances, but also the kind of protection they give. And this, I found your focus on the ethics that you touch on quite relevant, because we don't often think of this unless it becomes a scandal. And this is for maybe the Italian users listening. There was a big scandal in Italy recently about a website that was discovered where pictures of women, usually taken without their consent from their social media profiles, were posted and shared with very abusive comments and tons of sexism implied. And whenever these women tried to reach the managers of these websites, they didn't receive any feedback and they were not protected until the case has recently escalated. And I find your paper talks a lot about dehumanizing, in a way, users, but it also dehumanizes providers as, someone that might as well ghost you the same way that the other users have ghosted you.
Well, definitely. As I was saying, this is something that was just mentioned really in our paper. So we didn't really dig into the structure of the service in itself, and also especially who deals. So is there someone, human beings who can really take care of, the users, especially in, exceptional, I would hope that it was an exceptional case like the one that I just described. So yes, this is the feeling, by the way, that we had. And this is also a, potential line of research for the future, because definitely, but as I was saying before, I'm sure that someone in the service dominant logic, or by the way, in the service area of investigation, are mentioning or are trying to have a better understanding about how to fix these big ethical issues that you were describing. So I don't have a clear answer here at the moment, but definitely this is something to talk about.
I think that on a societal level, we are also waking up to the idea that platforms are not neutral, and especially platforms that are geared towards love and relationships and dating. We saw that earlier this year with the controversy with Bumble, a platform that is geared towards women and consent. And they received a lot of backlash because they released billboards in the US where they were saying that celibacy is not the answer. And as a result, they received a lot of criticism and backlash, where people commented about the role they play in terms of protecting women, especially with the current climate in the US. And we also are seeing platforms such as Tinder releasing new features, such as the double date feature. And one of the ways they're marketing this is by saying that you can go with your bestie, and that's safer. You're not by yourself. It's the two of you dating at the same time. So we're seeing a lot of marketing activity that is geared towards this idea, but it also reveals a lot about the priorities of these online dating platforms. Have you observed anything else happening in this space currently?
Well, I think that you're also talking about the strategies, some of the, like for example, going in couple, etc. This can also be a strategy adopted by the users. Well, on the other side, well, you were discussing about the two different sides, right? On a sense, the possibilities and the possible strategies that these consumers can adopt, and on the other side, the strategies again that the platforms are using to push people to use these different platforms. Well, you reported a very precise example. What can I say? It is that, by the way, there are a lot of different platforms over there, and all of them are addressing, let's say, different needs, different consumption needs. So, for example, in France, I remember, I don't know if it is still open, but I remember some years ago, there was a digital dating platforms dedicated to women who wanted to have, just women who wanted to have extra marital relationships. And it was a scandal because it was, you know, I remember the Parisian metro walls covered by the advertising with a lot of insults, you know, a lot of people writing very horrible things to criticize this platform. So every platform brings its own, you know, service, or by the way, its own offer. And on the other side, of course, we have our consumers and our users trying to deal with this algorithmic power, because as we were saying before, we are getting the more and the more aware about this form of power, and so they put into place the different strategies that they can have. So one of the strategies can be, for example, going in couple. So it was suggested in this sense, if I understood well from the platform, but this can also be some of the strategies described by our interviewees. On the other side, for example, you can go with a very, you know, how can I say, a very disillusioned attitude. I don't know if this is the real term. And this is something, for example, this is a strategy that you described in our paper. So I remember the description, the narrative of one of the interviewees saying, yes, of course, you can, if you are traveling for work, you can use the app, and you just go out, you can have fun with this person, just pay attention not to have sex with this person before having the tour of the city, because otherwise, I mean, he or she is going to disappear quite soon. So they're adopting, by the way, strategies to try to figure out or to receive, I would say, the best experience, whatever this can mean, from the usage of the app.
Thank you, Stefania. Are you still working in the market of dating apps, or have you thought about any project in the near future?
Well, thank you for this question. Actually, we are still working on digital dating, or by the way, digital relationships, but not focusing exclusively on the apps. We are talking about in our last papers and also presentations or research that we are doing, again with the same colleagues, so Alisa Minina and Jamie Smith, we are talking about the relationships that consumers are creating with algorithms directly, so with the AI companions. And well, there are a lot of things to do here and to say as well here, also because I mean the let's say here the gender issues are even more complex, because we are adding you know what can I say, more complexity. And so yes, this is the main direction that we are taking at the moment, but definitely also the description of the service ecosystem in itself and the impact of the service on human lives, especially on human relationships. This is something that must be investigated from the ethical point of view. So this is something that it is still in its infancy, so I can't really say something more about that, but this is something that it is in our plan.
Thank you so much, Stefania, for talking to us about your research on online dating and platforms. This is definitely a space that we're keeping an eye on because it's evolving so much. And as you've said, like publishing research from 5 years ago might be quite different to the landscape at the moment, especially with the emergence of new technologies such as AI companions. This is definitely something we're interested into looking into more as well.
Yeah, and I would recommend your paper, honestly, to anyone who has been sitting through a dinner where your friends complain about their dating misadventures on the app. It honestly, you analyze everything through the value lenses, but it does resonate, I think, with many of the informal conversations that we've all been listening to. So, Stefania, thank you so much for your time. We hope we're going to have you in this near future, maybe with an episode on AI companions and dating, so romantic relationships with AI. And in the meanwhile, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Frisky. Remember to share this episode and follow us as well.
See you in our next season. Bye.
Bye.